Hey guys, Lizardlea here for day 20 of 4 Heavenly Beasts, the Heaven and Earth design. So, we are making progress on page 3. I think I'll be finishing it up soon. You can really see the snake now. It's awesome. And if you know what the final product looks like, you can see the beginnings of the turtle really well. So, so it took me 8 days to finish page 1, and then day 13 I finished page 2. So that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 days. And I don't think I'm going to finish page 3 today, but I think it'll be within the next, 3 or 4 days. So, what's the average going to be? 19, 20, yeah, it'll be about 8 per page. So that's actually not too bad. So, we'll see. I'm just going to get to cross-stitching now. Alright, so we are going to be beginning with True Detective today.
Yep.
And there are 3 very different seasons with this show. David's favorite season is 1. My favorite season is 2. And I don't dislike season 3, but it is my least favorite. Alright, so True Detective. Sometimes your favorite TV show of all time, sometimes not.
I mean, it's easily top 2 or 3, no question.
Yes.
At least the first season is. I do like this. So, brief breakdown. As Liz already explained, they're very different. They're not connected in any way. There's maybe 1 or 2 very tiny cameos that sort of show they're in the same universe if you're really looking for them.
Yeah,
but I don't even think I could tell you what they were off the top of my head. They're so unimportant. So, you can absolutely watch them in any order. At any time, just watch them because they're all really good. Every single season is better than most shows I've ever seen. Season 1 just happens to be really, really good. The plot outline of season 1 is it takes place in Mississippi.
I've only seen it one time, and it's not my favorite TV show. I love it, but it's not my favorite.
Is it
so
Mississippi?
You need to Google it if you want to be sure.
Or is it Louisiana? I want to say it's Louisiana because they got that bayou stuff going on.
I do not know.
Actually, 2 of them take place in the South, don't they? Season 1. Blah 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 blah.
David is very prepared for this.
I studied all night. This has been a test of the emergency forgot stuff system. I'm just going to control F words. Louisiana. All right, I was right.
All right, good job.
Got it in 1. So,
if that's what you call getting it in 1, sure.
Absolutely. So, it stars Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson, and they both knock their roles out of the park as very imperfect people. In fact, I think it's one of the few shows that doesn't just star good guys that you actually enjoyed.
Yeah, it starred straight up, not good guys, and I really liked it.
I mean, they're not...
I'm not saying they're bad guys, but they're not definitively good guys.
Yeah.
They both make poor choices.
They're not
throughout
like
the whole
mob
show.
bosses in Casino and whatnot, but they're definitely not good people.
Yeah, and I still really enjoyed it, which is very rare for me. I generally dislike when the main characters aren't, inherently good people. But they pulled this one off.
So, trying to avoid spoilers, because I think kind of like Mr. Robot, there's more than enough to talk about without having to spoil everything, so we'll kind of see where we go, but the first season is about both of them. Matthew McConaughey is the new cop in town, and he's partnered with Woody Harrelson, who's kind of the good old boy who everybody knows. And they catch a case that's got some obvious, serial killer, dark magic sort of evil vibes going on, immediately. And for the record, this show is shot just stunningly.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't, it's not they showed off this really, really cool shot with, the sunlights. It's everything is just so well done, even when it's, empty fields or whatnot. Whatever.
It's thought out.
Yeah, whatever tone they're going for, they almost always nail.
Mm-hmm.
So they begin investigating, and it's told in sort of a split time or perspective, in the sense that there's them investigating the case when it happened, And then there's them going over the case in the future, like 10, 20 years later. I forget, maybe even 30 years. No, it's like 10 or 20 years later, talking to some police officers about the case. So it's jumping between the two timelines and showing everything off. If you're someone who doesn't love when they do timeline jumping because stuff gets confusing, this one is really very, very clear. I am probably a bad person to judge that because I normally like when people do timeline-y stuff like The Witcher and a few other things. But it definitely handles it well.
I don't know, like, I remember when you were explaining it to me, I was worried, because I was like, I might have a hard time following it, and I think I did okay. Like, I think there were only a couple scenes where it wasn't, like, inherently obvious. Because, like, the way they talk about it is so different when it's currently happening versus when it's already happened. And they do look older in those scenes.
Oh, absolutely,
so
yeah. And they do a great job of the
it's just hard to try and be like, okay, where does this fall in the timeline exactly? Like, they're discussing it here, but this might have happened prior. Like, so it's... I don't think it was that bad, though.
Yeah, well,
like,
no, I think it's pretty dang distinct.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, it's... The way they set it up when they're in the future, they're not doing their own stuff. They're literally talking about the past for a good portion of the show. Mm-hmm. So it's not hard to follow, generally. Unless it wants to be. It toys with some other stuff that I'm not going to go super into, but just know that they're like themes. I don't really want to talk about it because it's an interesting thing to talk about, but at the same time, it's hard to do without spoiling, especially because of how they do it. So if we decide to spoil it, we'll go back to it. But yeah, I think that's pretty much season 1 in a nutshell. It's really, really good. The acting's really great. The pacing is tremendous. There's some incredible shots, both just like visually and like direction-wise. Like there's a wonderful one-shot scene that is probably one of the best I've ever seen, because like the whole point of doing a one-shot, like, you know, doing it in one take, is to try and build tension and stress and convey. And this, like,
it was so stressful watching that scene. Oh my god!
And everyone I know feels that way. Like, I normally don't get into things, but the first time I watched that, I was literally on the edge of my seat. And then when it was done, I'm like, wow, wait a minute, that was a one take, wasn't it? Like, where it just, you know.
See, this is another thing where it's like, I'm not. My brain obviously is not connected the same way David's is, because at the end of it, he was like, you know that was one shot, right? And I was like, what are you talking about? There were a bunch of cuts. And he was like, no, Liz. He rewound it, maybe rewatch it, and I was like, holy crap, yeah, you're right. That's one shot. Yeah. Like, he noticed that in Mr. Robot, and he noted, you know, you knew about that in this show. See, that's the thing, versus, like, I get engrossed in the story, so, like, I'm watching it, obviously, but I don't notice I don't know if you, I guess subtle. I mean, it's not really subtle, but I mean...
It depends on what you're looking for, and sometimes there's more focus on it. Like, when Mr. Robot did some of the stuff it did, where, like, they went above the ceiling... that's very obviously like, wow, why would you do a shot like that? Oh yeah, they're probably trying to not cut, because like normally you just cut and go to the next room.
Yeah.
Whereas in True Detective, it's pretty neat. I don't know if it's a tracking shot where like they follow them, and it's crazy. I don't know if it's actually one shot, but it sure looks like it.
It looks like it.
Yeah, and I know it's really, really well renowned. So. Season 1 is considered the best. It's just got a really, really good flow. It keeps you interested. It, quote-unquote, plays fair. Like, if you ever watch mystery shows or anything with, like, a sort of mystery, which is really popular these days, you know, I feel like ever since Lost, the general public has been way more open to the idea of, like, you know, cliffhangers and deeper secrets and whatnot, and that's surprising given how Lost ticked everyone off with that. But, so, you know, like, you can be clever and figure things out early, but it doesn't really matter if you don't. It's just, it's very, very well done. So...
It also has Alexandra Daddario, who David kind of has a crush on.
She's really hot. Anyways.
If you guys don't know her, I knew her as Annabeth from the Percy Jackson movies. And it's so weird. I just had to Google her for a second, and she's older than me. She's currently 34. And I actually thought she was younger than me because she looked so young in Percy Jackson. But no, she wasn't that young. So, good, yeah.
Okay.
She's really pretty. Yeah.
Yep. So,
anything else for season 1?
not yet. If we decide to spoil, there's plenty. But watch it.
Yeah, it's worth it.
And then so season 2, to set the scene, sort of, season 1 was very well received. Lots of people mark it as one of the best shows of all time, sort of thing. And so season 2 was kind of running into that, and they didn't have as long to develop it. So I believe the director or the writer or whoever has talked about how, like, I didn't have as much time, and so I didn't get to flesh everything out, and blah, 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 blah. All this sounds like it's bad, but the simple fact is if you go, like, if you'd never watched any of these and you like these sorts of shows, and you just caught season 2 on TV, you'd be like, wow, that was really good. So,
I prefer it over season 1, personally.
Yeah.
I know most people disagree with me, but I really liked it. And the main character was not a good guy. I loved Vince Vaughn in this show.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because I will say, my previous experiences with Vince Vaughn was, like, when he's being stupid funny, and I don't find him funny when he's like that. He plays this role very serious. Like, he's a mob boss, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and he plays it really serious, and I thought he was amazing. And I really liked his character. He was my favorite. So, if you've been watching, or if you've been watching my videos and listening, you already know what my track record is with favorite characters. I'm not going to tell you his fate, but...
Yeah. So, he,
I thought he did an amazing job. He blew my mind. I did not know he could act like that.
It's interesting to me because a lot of people, like, throw shade at him for, like, oh, that's part of why season 2 wasn't good, is he ruined... And
He was amazing.
I think it is one of the most obvious examples of the show wasn't what people wanted, or people didn't finish it, so they just blame him. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely out of line. I think he nailed the role. It's a great performance. It's, in fact, I think my favorite thing about season 2. Of all the arcs, of all the characters, of all the things going on, everything he did and is involved in sticks in my mind. Everything else, it's okay, it's not bad. But his thing is what makes the season. What's going on in season 2 is you've got... It's a little more confusing and a little more convoluted. You have more characters, but you don't have any time wonkiness. But just the way it's written and the way it's paced can make it confusing because there's so many plots going on. Mm-hmm. And you know that in some way these might all thread together, but you don't really always remember, like, oh, they're talking about so-and-so. Who the hell's so-and-so? Oh, he was on screen for, like, 3 seconds. Why do I... Okay, yeah, that's cool, but, like, what? Like...
I could be remembering wrong, but I want to say it was season 2. There were, like, 2 brunette guys that I had a hard time distinguishing between. I don't remember. I could be way off base. But in my memory, there were 2 guys that looked very similar, and it kept throwing me off. Well, to me, all right, I'm racist against my own people.
White guys
Screw white people.
They're wearing suits. They don't have any body above the neck. So,
I mean, like, you're Lulu Vash, all right? Mm-mm. I see...
Suits!
I see the small similarities. Mm-hmm. And that's it. I don't know.
Anyways, so the rough plot is you've got this tiny little corrupt California town, and this is all loosely based on some real events, or inspired, I guess, by real events. It's just this little industry town in the sense that they've literally sold out the town to large industries, and so they're, the local politicians run it kind of like their own little fiefdom, and so the cops are, corrupt, maybe not like murder you in your sleep corrupt, but, will rough you up if you start investigating corrupt. Mm-hmm. And there's this railway that's going to be, or corridor they keep calling it. I think it's a railway, or is it a highway? I don't remember. There's something that's going to be built, a railway, let's say. High-speed rail. And this mob boss, that would be Vince Vaughn, has invested in it. And someone basically the bag man, because of course there's a whole bunch of, illicit money in this, like Vince Vaughn's. The bag man, the kind of money guy, the dirty money guy for the politicians and the go-between, winds up dead. They find his body. And so for Vince Vaughn, the motivation is, where the hell's my money? Because he had all of his money in this. This was him trying to go straight. He was going to be good from here on out. This would make him clean, just like the old days. You go from bootlegging and murder into like, oh, we're high class now or whatever. That was his goal.
And he has a very lovely wife, by the way.
Yes.
I also liked her.
I do. We'll get to that. So, and then you have one of the detectives. You actually have three detectives. You have the main detective, air quotes, who's basically pretty corrupt and trying to deal with the fact that he might lose custody of his son, and he's basically been told by like three different people how they want him to handle this situation, and he's just trying to like get through it. You have this motorcycle cop who was accused of something, and so now he's on the investigation just because they kind of want to get him out of the way while stuff blows over. And you have this female cop who's on the investigation because she... why is she there? I think she's the actual representative of the county that found him. Like, it's one of those weird jurisdiction things. Mm. Short version, there's all your characters and all their rough motivations is, like, solving this crime, finding corruption. Yeah, she's supposed to find the corrupt cop as well. And so there's all this interplay and absurdity. And it starts out as a rat's nest, and it gets weird, and then it accelerates, and then you're like, whoa, that just happened. And then it kind of goes a little bit sideways. It's good. It's good. See it. As Liz mentioned, yes, there is a lovely wife of the mob boss, Vince Vaughn. My one thing with the season is that, without spoiling anything, thematically, they're very clearly trying to do something with the men and the women in this season. And I love the female characters, but at the same time, I feel like the way they kind of handle it, especially at the end, weakens them a little.
Do we want to go into spoiler territory with season 2?
Not yet.
No? Okay.
I'd like to go through all three and then see where we're at if we want to, or if we want to talk about something else.
Okay.
Because again, like, all these shows are worth watching, and it would be a shame to spoil. Like, we're spoiling anime on the Cross Stitch channel. I don't mind as much, but like, either you've seen it or you're probably not that interested.
Well, and there aren't really twists and turns in anime necessarily the way that there are in these shows. Well, okay.
Nani?
What?
No, never mind. It's a meme.
I don't think it's quite as, I don't know, maybe not necessarily powerful, but like the twists in Mr. Robot to me were grandiose. I don't remember anything shocking me to that extent in Brotherhood, my favorite show of all time.
Okay, so to be quickly segue back into anime, to be fair, a lot of the anime that you like is more traditional story stuff, but a lot of the junk I like because it's twisty and weird.
Yes, well, the ones that you discussed that I hadn't seen, you did not make sound interesting in any way, shape, or form. So...
Okay, but like Psycho-Pass we talked about and spoiled
the
heck out.
Those are ones we saw.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm talking about, how I didn't mind spoiling those, and that's because I doubt anyone who's listening either A, wants to see it or hasn't already.
I mean, the craziness in Psycho-Pass is not...
It's pretty significant.
Yeah, but there's some psychoness in True Detective Season 1, too.
Yeah, there were like, Made in Abyss, Psycho-Pass.
Yeah.
We've got, what was the other big one that we caveated 8 times?
Berserk.
Berserk would be one. I have a list somewhere. Documents?
See, I don't know. Like, I feel like a major twist that makes you want to, like, rethink everything is on a different level from most things.
I would bet money that if I go back through our backlog, I can find, like, 3 or 4 things that would qualify that for anime. But whatever, we're already done talking about it. So, I don't want to spoil Season 2 as of yet. If you want to, cool.
No.
Alright.
I was interested in hearing more of what you were talking about, so...
Well, I mean, I don't think I have to spoil it to say that, like, thematically, the way they handle the men and the women, like, the men are very, very driven, and the women are more grounded. They're not doormats by any means, but they have a much better assessment of the situation and on judgment calls and whatnot, especially at the end. So I feel that given... I felt the ending was a little heavy-handed.
I mean, I remember being annoyed with the ending.
Yeah, that too.
Like, I wasn't angry with it.
But
I was just annoyed with it. Like, I felt like with the way it had gone, and it had been... I felt that it was mostly realistic.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is the generic happy ending. Like, I mean, it wasn't necessarily a happy ending.
Yeah, but
it was the happiest that they could do with where they were.
Yeah, no, I agree. It felt very...
It wasn't as realistic as I knew it could have been. And
that's actually kind of interesting to mention, because, like, Season 1 does not have the kind of ending that I would have expected, and that's all I'm going to say. But, and it's still really, really good, which just goes to show that you can pull these things off. It's not just about shock value or anything else. Like, it's about execution. And then finally, Season 3. Season 3 happened after Season 2, of course.
What?
You know,
they're in order?
Ask a Star Wars fan. So, they had more time. And they took their time. And I think it's decently well renowned, but I think part of that's because they had a long break between 2 and 3, so it once again wasn't sitting there. It wasn't
being compared as much to 1 as 2 was. Yeah.
And it does its own thing. So, like, if you're jonesing for more of Season 1 after Season 1, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not really getting it. Because the whole point of these is they're based sort of on the pulp detective comics. Well, not just pulp detective, but pulp comics from back in the day. And those all had very different vibes and storylines. They're not retelling the same story. So be aware these are really standalone. That said, oh gosh, who are the actors?
I think the biggest takeaway from Season 3 that I recall was literally, like, the cinematography. The way that they framed things in Season 3, I would say was actually better than Season 1. Maybe not always, but on average,
there were some really cool shots.
It was amazing. There were times when I would have David rewind it because I was just like, "Holy crap!" Like that transition was gorgeous. Like I want to see that again. Like I want to make sure I know it's coming, so I know what to look at. Like they did a great job, and this one also jumps between time.
Yeah, it's
but not in the same way. He has, Alzheimer's? Did they ever actually talk about it?
They never quite... I don't think they ever...
It seems like he has memory problems, basically.
Well, no, he definitely has. He has something...
But they don't tell you what it is. Yeah.
Like, he talks with doctors. It's not like, well, maybe something's here. It's like, yes, definitely.
We don't know what it is.
I'm going to butcher his name, but it stars Mahershala Ali. I don't know how to actually pronounce it, but he, what did I see him in before this? I saw him in, God, what's it called? Not West Wing. Oh my God. Frank Underwood. You haven't seen it.
He was in the Hunger Games.
No, it's
Predators.
called Ticks. It's the one that had, what's his name?
Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
He was in 2 shows that I can't remember the name of. One was a Marvel one, where he played a villain, and it's... Oh my God. Not Shaft. Forgive me, I can normally...
Luke Cage.
Luke Cage. He was in Luke Cage, where he played Copperhead, I think. But he was the star of that show, and he's in the first bit of it, and the moment he leaves, the show goes downhill.
He was also in House of Cards.
House of Cards, thank you. That's what I was looking for. And in both of those, he has great... Well, he doesn't necessarily have great roles, but he does a great job. So I was really, really excited to see him get a starring role in something, or at least something that I was watching, because he is a great actor.
I thought he was amazing.
Yeah,
I really liked watching him. Like, and dude can act.
Yeah, it's not an easy role either. Like, he's got to have some range for this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's him and crud. Who's the other one? Not her. Steven Dorff? Is that his name?
Yep.
What's he from? I can never. I know I recognized him, and then I'm like, what are you from?
Blade. Vampire Overlord Deacon Frost.
Oh, he was Frost?
No, I'm lying, honey. I've seen Blade one time, and I remembered the main bad guy's name. I love Blade, by the way, you guys. That movie was amazing.
She only saw it recently, that's why.
Yeah, that's why I don't know it as well.
But yeah, he
I
was
wish
a
I
lot
did.
younger then. I feel like I know him from something, and it's definitely not that. But looking at his filmography, it's not anything else either. So, I don't know, whatever. Point is, they both do a great job, once again, great performances. The idea is, in this one, again, 2 timelines, a current time and a past. Quite a time gap between them, I believe.
Very big, yeah.
Yeah, which makeup did some good job there, too.
Mm-hmm.
They catch a case when they're younger of a missing kid.
Oh, wait, this one has 3 time periods.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
it's
right.
not just 2, it's 3.
Yeah. I'd forgotten about that.
Because it's current, past, and even more past.
Yeah. So in most is past, they caught a case of a missing kid who just, like, he goes out to play, or 2 missing kids. They go out to play one day, and they don't come back. And then it's mostly just kind of daisy-chaining the repercussions of that. And they are in the South as well. I forget where. David's bad.
I don't know why it matters.
Because I care. They are in... Where's the first episode synopsis? It always says... Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, 1980, 1990, and 2015 are the supposed years. And then...
Arkansas.
Arkansas. Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was South.
Well, I mean, they actually filmed everything in Arkansas.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't think that's where it's supposed to... Maybe
I mean,
it is.
it says Wayne Hayes, an Arkansas State Police detective and a
okay,
Vietnam
I'm
War
wrong.
veteran, so...
I'm wrong. Okay.
I would go with Arkansas.
So yeah, he's a Vietnam vet. But yeah, it has a very different vibe and theme. It maybe bothers me a little bit because they play it off like it might be more like the first 2, and ultimately it's not. And I don't think it's a huge spoiler to say that, because you're not going to know what the heck I mean until it happens. But it's still very good.
Oh, yeah, it's my least favorite of the 3, but if we were to start rewatching the show, I would want to rewatch all 3 seasons.
And I'm not even sure. I think it's still the least favorite of mine, too, but it's kind of close between 2 and 3.
Well, you love 1, so...
Yeah, I was not even in the running
Yeah.
there. I really do like Vince Vaughn's performance, but there's a lot of strong moments. It's just that the show they are making for the 3rd one, I just overall like a little bit less, whereas the vibe of, well, yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. They're all really freaking good. Yeah, they're trying to figure out, where are these kids, what's going on, what happened, and then of course there's undertones of, like, racism at the time, times.
He's black, by the way, in case anyone didn't know.
Yeah, fair enough. And dealing with the fallout of the Vietnam War, and then his memory issues play a big role.
So, like, when you see him in the current time period, when he's significantly older and, definitely suffering from some kind of memory issue, you realize, like, very early on, by the way, he is an unreliable narrator. So it's like, when you go to the past, you're always just like, is this how he remembers it, or is this how it really is? And it's not always clear. They don't outright say, like, yes, this is how it happened, versus, oh, this is what he's telling them is happening. So... What? I thought that was incredibly clear from the get-go. What?
I don't know how to talk about it without spoiling things.
Oh, I thought you weren't playing I Spoiled It.
No,
I was like, I
no,
thought that was,
you're
like,
fine,
super
you're
duper
fine.
obvious. Like, the first time you meet him in the current time period, he, like, is having issues.
So I'll say, like, brief spoilers for 15 seconds, like, not major ones either, but they definitely do that, and they do something very explicit to do that, although it's not super obvious unless you're a nerd like me and look stuff up, but it was very intentional. And I don't think they do enough with that. It's a really cool concept, and I don't think they do enough with it. And that's all I'll say on the subject. Because I thought it was super cool, because I've read a few other things that do that. The unreliable narrator thing, and they just... bleh. So whatever. Yeah, they're all really, really good shows. I think I've got a similar rating to Liz, just because I really, really like... Well, obviously I like 1 better, but I like 2, I think, better than 3 ultimately, just because I really like Vince Vaughn's character and arc and storyline in 2. And then in 3, it's just a good story, but it doesn't stick with me quite as much.
I didn't find myself, like, freaking out when a character was in trouble the way I did in 2.
Well, to be
I was
fair,
always worried about the people in 2. I don't know, like, I was very attached to the people in season 2 for some reason.
To be fair, 3 is generally not trying to do that either. It's
True.
a totally different tone.
Yeah.
That's why, like, it's hard to compare them almost.
I mean, there was that house scene.
Yeah, no, I know, but...
So, like, there were times, but there were more when you have a freaking mob boss.
Well,
like...
I mean, but even then, like, especially in the scene that you're thinking of, you're dealing with 3 timelines, so we know
that at least this one person isn't dead. Yeah.
So, like, barring a really crazy reveal, which it's clearly not subject for, so I'm not spoiling anything, you're like, yeah, okay, well, I know something's going to happen here, and you have a rough idea of the consequences of what's about to go down because they've already been alluding to them, but you're finally about to get details. And so, like, it really isn't trying to be like 1 and 2 in the sense like, oh my god, is someone going to die here? Mm-hmm. It's telling a different kind of story. It's interesting because, like, you would probably not expect it, and that's probably what they're banking on, but actually kind of like Babadook.
I didn't like Babadook.
Yeah, mild spoilers for Babadook, but...
It's a horror movie, and...
Well,
yeah.
What I was going to say is, although I dislike Babadook a lot more because it does the same thing, this was the kind of vibe I got with Season 3, which is like, you go to... Hey, you can appreciate this now. You go to a really, really good steakhouse, and they bring out an excellent salad. And you like the salad, but you were there for steak. That's kind of how I feel about both of those, Season 3 and Babadook is the way larger offender. The salad quality is much worse.
Yeah, I was not happy with Babadook. I was really excited because I heard really great things about it. And then I watched it, and I was just like, oh, this is... okay. Like, it was just an allegory in the end. It wasn't actually a horror story. So
yeah, we can pivot into Babadook real quick. Might as well.
I mean, okay, so... I saw it years ago. I barely even remember. What was it? It was an allegory for, like, divorce or losing... I don't even...
So, the Babadook
don't remember
is a, air quotes, horror movie. And,
was it? It wasn't freaking scary at all to me.
That's nice. It has...
Okay, like, I
there.
will say, when the book kept coming back, that kind of creeped me out. And she would turn the page, and it would be something new... And, you know, it had creepy imagery, but that was the extent of it. Like, the scenes of him potentially being behind her, and then, oh no, it was actually the coat on a hook or whatever. Like, I don't know,
there's
they
the one
didn't
scene
frighten
where
me.
it comes into the room, which is supposed to be the big scary scene, which... Okay, so we're getting off track
I didn't
here.
like the movie.
Yeah, just let me explain why,
Go,
Jesus.
go.
So...
Power Rangers!
Yeah, I'm never getting a word in. The Babadook... Mass spoilers for the Babadook. A lot of people like it, and using my steak salad analogy from earlier, we were watching it. I watched it with my brother, my dad, and his wife. And 5-10 minutes in, I made a smart aleck comment because it's what I do, especially when I'm with family. We're all fine with that. And then I want to say 5-10 minutes after that, I realized that smart aleck comment was correct. So I accidentally figured out the twist, the big spoil for the movie really early on. And so I was already watching the movie within that light, and I was like, because you could have just... So the big twist is the whole movie plays up that there's this monster. There's this single mother living with her child.
And he is just a wretched demon child.
Well, I think he's supposed to maybe be on a spectrum too, or something.
Yes,
like
but I mean the way they
really
put it on
hammer
there.
Up. This is not like, well, he's difficult. They're like, no, this is
like she is just going crazy with him. Did she drug him a couple times? No.
Eventually, maybe.
Yeah.
But to straight spoil the movie, the smart aleck comment I made is the real horror is being a single mother, and basically, yeah, it is. That's actually what they're doing. Is the Babadook is this monster that comes in and it's going to possess you and it's going to make you kill the other person or harm them. So
and they imply it's the kid that's getting possessed, don't
they both get possessed. They straight up say that.
No, I thought, like, as the movie was going, I thought they were implying it was specifically just the kid.
Well, first it's the kid, but then it jumps to the mom.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, they try to make it seem like this whole movie is going to be about the kid getting possessed. And then it changes it up.
Got that
I don't.
vibe.
It's been years since I've seen this movie, you guys. I don't remember.
Yeah, okay. It starts focusing on the kid, and then yes, eventually it jumps to the mother, and like it's clearly trying to be your normal monster story of like, ooh, it's this thing that will possess you and make you do horrible things, but also maybe it can just straight kill you anyways. Blah 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 blah. And much like what's the one that's It Follows or The Tall Man?
It follows the arrival of a tall man.
Yes.
That scene creeped the heck out of me, and David did that to me once, and it was terrifying. Continue, as you were saying.
I grew 8 feet tall and crouched through a door.
It was terrifying.
But anyways,
I thought I was gonna die, you guys.
Point being, so in the Babadook, at the very, very end, they realize, oh, we can't kill or defeat the monster, we have to learn to live with it. And they literally do, in the sense that like they keep it in the basement locked up, and it kind of pivots into like a PSA, like, you know, at the end of a short commercial where like, see, now they're living with their demons, and like they're feeding the demon and taking care of it. And because the whole story is basically saying, you know, you don't need monsters to want to do horrible things to people you love. So like the kid is being a horrible, wretched brat because he's in a bad situation, and not only does he have maybe medical issues, but, you know, he's dealing with a single mother who he's not getting along with, so he's being worse and worse and worse, and that's the air quote monster possessing him. And then that makes the mother worse and worse and worse, and that's why she's doing horrible things to her child and possibly going to kill him. And so, of course, you know, you can't just kill the monster, you have to learn to live with it, because you'll always have terrible feelings, and you have to be mature and an adult and handle them right, and that's the moral of the story. And it feels like a gimmick. That's why I don't like it, is they didn't make a great horror movie, and they didn't make a great moral movie, like the moral they're trying to tell. They made a bait and switch, and you can do a bait and switch really, really well. A lot of my favorite movies do that sort of stuff. But the Babadook, to me, just felt like it was a gimmick, and the moment you notice the gimmick, you're like, okay. And then even, I'm not even sure I would have liked if I hadn't figured it out, because I'd just be like, oh, all right, that was a gimmick. Like, you gave me half a good horror movie and half a good indie art house movie, and neither one was good enough on its own, and the two together don't feel, I don't know. That was my take. I don't know why you didn't like it exactly. It just wasn't scary, or...
Okay, so as David was talking, I was reading a synopsis of it, and it doesn't read like the son was ever possessed by the Babadook. It reads like it was always just the mother.
It definitely implies that the kid at times is like being influenced by the monster, because it's paying attention to him and then it's paying attention to the mother. Mm-hmm. There's a scene where he, God, what does he do? He does something horrible. Because
he pushes a girl out of a treehouse.
Yeah, maybe it was that.
But that's because she was making fun of him for not having a dad. Yeah, she instigated that. Yeah, no, I'm not saying that you should victim blame,
I'm pretty sure the scene, one of the scenes definitely shows that the Babadook is not influencing him, but around. Like, they don't do it as direct as its possession. They do it as, oh, well, you're getting, you know, the monster is here because the monster is the allegory for being a bad person. Like, it's mostly not about the kid, it's definitely about the mom, but I know there's like 1 or 2 scenes because that's the whole point.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't find it scary. And everybody who was telling me about it was like, oh my gosh, it was so terrifying! And I was not scared.
It definitely isn't scary if you're at all into horror movies. Like,
yeah, and I am. I love horror movies.
And also, to be fair, they're not even like clever scares. It's a lot of jump scares.
And I think that is the lowest form of horror, is a jump scare.
Yeah.
Like, that isn't scary. Scary is, I want to turn the volume down. Or, you know, like, if I were to turn this off now, that would be flashing in my memory, and it would frighten me. A jump scare will scare me for the moment, and then as soon as I'm over it, I'm over it. Like,
Unless
I'm not going to
enter the
remember
room
that.
suddenly.
Well, that's... I mean, yeah, that was kind of a jump scare, but it was handled better. Like, he walks in that hallway, and he has to bend down to make it
so
in.
Surreal. It's a jump scare, but then you still have to deal with the fact that, like, oh my god, that's creepy.
And it's coming at her slowly.
It's execution.
Which, yeah, it is. So,
like the fake
it's not the same jump scare that is your general jump scare. Most jump scares are just, rah!
Yeah.
Versus this one was like, yes, okay, it's coming at you, but your heart's still pounding because it's still coming at you. Like, woo.
It uses it to draw your attention, but it's not the actual scary thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, would not recommend. Well,
I didn't like it. It was not for me.
I think most people should probably, if you're into horror at all, you should see it. We've of course ruined the hell out of it, so sorry.
Okay, it's been years. If you haven't seen it by now, it's not our fault. 2014. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah. But even if you haven't seen it, like, if you're the least bit interested, it is unique enough to be seen, and apparently a lot of people like it, so maybe you would too. But yeah, to me and Liz, it's not so much.
Yeah.
You want to just, like, keep daisy chaining off this and go into more horror? Because we've got Cube on the list. We can talk about all three.
Do we want to go in chronological order, or the order in which they came out?
You see, you just made fun of me. Order in which they came out, absolutely. I don't think it's worth discussing in chronological order for a whole slew of reasons.
So Cube is one of my favorite horror movies.
And we will spoil the hell out of these.
Yes, we are going to spoil them so hard. I freaking loved this movie, alright? And originally the movie starts with one person wakes up, and they're in this big square room, and I think it's green or red, blue. I don't remember what color it was. Doesn't matter. But and he's going through each of these different rooms, and every single one is a cube. And eventually he falls into a trap, and it kills him.
And it's kind of clear before this that, like, he's looking for traps. Like, he's
throwing his shoe into a room, pulling it back. They do that. And, you know, he dies. So then you move to a different person. I think it's the girl with the glasses, maybe?
Probably.
And other people start coming into the room, and they all meet up. The Wren is the one most, or the Wrens. Wren. Mm-hmm. The one, he is the most memorable for me.
Interesting.
Well, for names, I mean.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Because they make fun of the fact that it says Wrens, and he's just like, dude, it's French. You're mispronouncing it. It's great. And they attempt to work together to make it through this cube, because they eventually figure out, with the help of Kazan, it's Kazan, who you eventually find out is just, he is severely mentally handicapped, but he is a savant when it comes to math.
Yeah.
They find a code in between the rooms of how to figure out where a trap is and where a trap isn't. And they think at first that it's prime numbers. If the numbers between these rooms are prime, it's safe. And so they're going through these rooms. They're like, hey, Kazan, is this prime? Is this prime? Is this prime? And they bribe him with the jelly beans at the end or something like that. And eventually they go into one that's prime, and it's a trap. It is called the Sushi Machine. And these wires pop up around the dude, and they start to twist in on themselves. He makes it out. It cuts up his leg, but he makes it out. And so he's just like, what the heck? You lied. Obviously that number isn't prime. And they're like, no. Like they work it out, and they're like, no, the numbers are prime. So like, crap, that can't be right. Turns out if it's, what is it? A square? No. it's infinitely more difficult to calculate.
It's
basically
the cube. The cube root of the number also has to be prime.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Incredibly difficult. Yeah. Like, Kazan has a little freak out, so they're like, okay, girl with the glasses, you went to school for math, you have to be able to do this. And she's like, do you have any idea how long it would take me to figure this out? And that's when they get Kazan to, 1.
Just does it.
Yeah, and they're just like, what? Like, he does it instantaneously. And so they start getting through these rooms because they know where the traps are and where the traps aren't. And then eventually they figure out, oh, there's a bridge. At some point, a room moves and you can escape the gigantic cube. And, I mean, they learn more about it because, people that are in there talk about it and yada, 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 whatever.
Everyone's roughly somehow related to
connected in some kind of way to it. Yeah, like, oh, you paid someone in Tatooine to do this. I know I said a Star Wars place. That was not what she said. But...
Crossover. Spoilers in this.
Yeah! I mean, should I spoil the ending?
Well, if I can yammer.
Oh, yeah, go. Sorry.
Because, I think, I'm going to spoil...
I mean, we have 4 minutes, so we're pretty much just going to do Cube. Go.
Lame. It's really cool because, first of all, like many horror movies, it kind of gets in that, like, popcorn junk food horror level of, like, oh, let's see all the creative ways they kill people, like Saw, Jason, any of those. It's definitely got that. Like, I always thought the Sushi Machine was the one that gets the guy at the beginning and cubes him,
It's a wire that falls down.
Well,
and then it collapses in on itself. No, it's a gate.
Well, it's like
the Sushi Machine is the wires that come down and twist on the cop.
Okay, so, either way. It's got all
he calls it the Sushi Machine or something like that.
I don't know. So, they've got all these cool ways they're killing people, so, like, at least from that, like, sort of junk food level, it's interesting to see what the special effects team can come up with. So, that's where it kind of caught me. And then, it actually does have a really interesting plot. And I think one of the big reveals is that why does this thing exist? The answer is believably
not given to you.
Well, no, it's given to you. It's believably scary, and that they basically say, yeah, it's a runaway government project. It exists because the government wants to throw money. Like, there was a reason it started, and God knows what it was, because it's been, basically lost to bureaucracy, and now they just do it because someone somewhere says we're supposed to do this, and that's what they do. Like,
that's what they're assuming. They do not find this out in the movie, honey.
No, someone straight says it. Like, yeah.
That's what they're speculating.
No.
Yes.
They're
speculating.
No, I'm very positive on this because I'm not the only one who got this vibe from it. There's a whole... I'll show you something when we're done of somebody talking about this. I'm very...
It's the doctor that says this line.
Yes, and she's actually one of the people who worked on the project. We'll go over this afterwards. When you're done arguing with me. So, no, the point is that I thought was actually a really good answer. Like, it's the whether I'm right or not, it's the most you get. And it's very believable. And it's not like, oh, yes, there's some secret cool... Like, it's not about that. It's just about, look, you need to get the hell out. And why does this exist? Because sorry sucks to be you. And that was an interesting way to do it. And the puzzle is kind of interesting. Like, you're not going to be figuring it out, but it's just neat to see them solve it. And my one big complaint with the movie is it does what a lot of horror movies do, which is, well, especially Saw 2 did this as well, where it starts as a kind of a neat, like, oh, we have to solve this puzzle or problem, but they solve the puzzle or problem too quickly, and so now it's like, well, we have half a movie left. Well, what if one of the people just became crazy and tried to kill them all? Well, now it's a Jason movie. It's not Jason, it's a random person with an axe or a knife or a gun instead of Jason, but we're watching people run from a guy who's trying to kill them rather than watching them try to deal with this monstrosity puzzle thing. And I think that's a very different feel and much, much less interesting. But Cube did do it in a clever way because it's not the character you'd expect, and it doesn't look like they're going to do that at the start. So that is why I like it, and that's generally what I feel it did well. I guess we can talk about the others on the next one, but it's definitely the best of the three by a large margin, in my opinion, and I think most people's opinions.
I love this movie.
Yeah.
I like Cube Zero, and I did not like Hypercube.
Cube Zero is, I don't think, very good. It's fun.
I liked it.
It's not good. It's dumb enough to be interesting, but it's not actually a good movie. It's campy. That would be exactly it. So, yeah. I don't know. Do you have anything you want to round out on?
I liked it. If you like horror, I definitely recommend it. And,
I'm looking things up right now.
That's the end. So, see you guys next week! And that is the end for Heavenly Beasts Day 20. I got 7 hours and 22 minutes of footage. I am literally so close to finishing page 3. But it is too dark. My webcam doesn't want to focus. It wants to just do that staticky thing. So I will definitely finish page 3 the next day that I work, though. So it'll be 21 days, 3 pages down. So that will actually be 7 days. That will be my average for a page. Do you have anything to add, handsome man?
How's the book going?
That was not you adding anything.
You could talk about it because it's been good.
Well, I don't know. How far would you say I am into page 2? Like 3/4 of the way?
Into page 2?
Into book 2. Sorry, page 2.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I feel like I'm really far. Like, my favorite character has been the most badass character ever, which makes me really happy. He's still alive. That never happens for me.
Although.
Right, honey? Well, although he's not dead right now.
No.
He's being saved.
His.
Oh yes, his girlfriend is dead. It's not fair.
Yes, dear.
It's not fair at all.
So when her characters live, they just have miserable lives.
It's true. It's true. Okay, anyways, I don't have anything else to add, and the handsome man obviously does not want to be
I'm cooking.
on camera because
I can't abandon my cook.
that's a lie, and we both know
I
it.
need to put meat in a pot.
That's what he did. He lifted up the meat to show it to me.
Let's see.
Love you, handsome.
Love you more.
Love you the most.
You're weird.
You're weirder.
No, I am not.
Yeah, you are. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that jazz. I'll see you guys in the next video.